Congressman Gabe Evans appears in public long enough to duck questions about how many Coloradans are about to lose food benefits. There are Coloradans focused every day on flooding, even in this dry year.
We manage water, whether it's dry or wet.
Denver sues Big Tobacco for people littering cigarette butts that don't break down in the water supply. Personal responsibility or corporate negligence? And a way to embrace the families of new college students so more people feel included.
I just want them to feel welcomed. I want them to feel like this is their space as well.
That's tonight on Next. Republican Congressman Gabe Evans is facing one of the toughest re-election battles in America. Best we can tell, Evans has never held an in-person town hall. So if you're a constituent of his in the 8th Congressional District, north of Denver up to Greeley, you have to find out where Evans is ahead of time. Marshall Zellinger learned that Evans would be appearing with President Trump's Agriculture Secretary. So Marshall showed up with questions about cuts to food benefits by Evans and the administration.
After hosting a private roundtable with members of Colorado's agriculture community, Republican Congressman Gabe Evans took questions alongside USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins. The USDA oversees the SNAP food benefits program, and last year Evans voted for the bill that changed SNAP work requirement rules. 90,000 people in Evans's Congressional District 8 receive SNAP benefits.
How many do you think or do you expect to lose these food benefits, and why is that a positive for taxpayers?
Actually, I'm sorry. I know you want to talk to him first, but I live this every single day.
Before Evans could tell us if he knew the number, Rollins walked back to the microphone to explain the work requirement changes. But the question to Evans was how many in his district could lose benefits over those changes.
Let's look at the SNAP error rate. Under Hickenlooper as governor, it was about 5%. Under Polis, it's ballooned up to 10%.
Evans instead talked about the state's SNAP error rate, a stat tracked by the USDA. In 2022, Colorado's error rate was among the lowest at 7%. Last year, it was in the bottom half at 10%. The error rate includes overpayments and underpayments to recipients. The USDA says this rate reflects program waste, but not fraud.
$12 million a month not getting to the people who need it the most because of mismanagement here in the state of Colorado. We're working to cut out that fraud, waste, and abuse in order to get the money to the people who need it the most.
So how many people in your district do you think will lose these benefits, and apparently for fraud, waste, and abuse?
If you want an answer from that, you'll have to answer the question that I asked you last year at the state capitol first. Thanks, Marshall.
Evans is talking about when he dodged my question about his vote to kick people off Medicaid in his district. How does taking people off Medicaid and into emergency rooms for uncompensated care help medical providers in your district?
Do you want illegal immigrants on Medicaid, Marshall?
Two questions at two events about who in his district is at risk of losing benefits, and no answer. But that's more opportunity than his own constituents get at asking him questions. He's held telephone town halls, but nothing in person.
What should your constituents take that you meet with allies in the Trump administration, like Secretary Rollins and Secretary Mullen last week from DHS, but you've yet to have this general in-public town hall for anyone to show up in your district?
Incorrect. We had a text to go out to everybody for a town hall that we did with the Secretary of Energy just a couple of weeks ago, also in Adams County, by the way.
We haven't been able to find a public town hall, but we did find this meeting. At the end of June, the conservative America First Policy Institute, founded by now Secretary Rollins, it held an energy-based policy event where questions were moderated, not asked by the general public. If you knew where to look on social media, you could RSVP to find out the location and find your congressman. For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
Now, some House members in swing districts run to the political center. Congressman Evans has stayed close to President Trump and the MAGA agenda, and he has been rewarded recently with a parade of Trump cabinet members coming to town for events in the district just as election season ramps up. He's seen 3 cabinet members appear with him in the last 6 weeks. Evans faces Democrat Manny Rutinel in November. Aurora's leaders rejected a 6-month moratorium on new data center development last night. Instead, City Council approved a narrower set of restrictions on where data centers can be and how they can use water. The sponsor of the proposed moratorium, Councilor Amy Wiles, said she wanted to give the city time to establish new rules governing where and how data centers can be built. It would not have impacted existing data centers or facilities already under construction. But that idea was narrowly voted down. Instead, City Council passed a separate resolution that gives the city manager about a month to come up with new rules to establish buffer zones for data centers in certain areas. Council also wants a ban on evaporative cooling, the water-intensive cooling system that can consume millions of gallons of water a day. City Council struggled to find a compromise between welcoming new development and just letting data centers take over.
I want businesses to come to Aurora. I want them to invest in Aurora, create jobs here, build and succeed here. But I also believe those businesses should be good partners to our residents who raise families here, own homes here, and who are building their futures here.
We've had a data center that is in Ward 4 that has produced income and we have never heard of anything about this particular data center since it's been in Ward 4. So I wanted to bring that up, and that's actually in a community neighborhood.
Aurora already has 9 data centers. There are 5 under construction. All of those are not expected to be impacted by any new regulations. Well, hold on to your butts. City of Denver says plastic cigarette filters are littering city property and crowding the water system. So now the city is suing Big Tobacco. Late last week, the city filed a lawsuit against 10 major tobacco companies demanding that they pay to clean up cigarette butt litter. The World Health Organization says cigarette butts and non-biodegradable filters are the most commonly littered item on planet Earth. Denver's lawsuit argues that companies have, quote, long known and intended that those filters would be discarded following use and that the plastic ultimately flows into our water systems, streams, and rivers. In fighting similar lawsuits in other states, the cigarette companies have argued that individual smokers are to blame for litter. But Denver's lawsuit argues that the litter is entirely predictable and that the companies have made no effort to change the design of their products. Colorado's in the middle of one of its driest years on record, and yet there are people who spend their whole working days thinking about floods. Our Mark Salinger found them just as busy as in any other year.
We've done a lot of stories on the drought this year, and while everybody talks about how dry it is in Colorado, there's a team in Omaha, Nebraska, preparing for what might just be the last thing on most people's minds.
I would tell you there's always flood risk, even in a drought.
Meet Katie Cephas.
And I'm always preparing for that next flood. It might not look like I've got a lot going on right now, but I do.
In the middle of one of the driest years on record in Colorado, it's her job with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to be ready for when it rains. A lot.
A weatherman has a tough job, but a water manager has an even more tough job because we have to utilize what the meteorologist says and interpret that and try to determine what our risks are.
Katie and her team manage reservoirs in the Denver area like Chatfield, Cherry Creek, and Bear Creek. They were built decades ago for flood control. Not a whole lot of people are thinking about floods today, but Katie always is.
I think there's always flood risk. It might feel like there's no flood risk today, but those big storms aren't always forecasted.
Her current forecast shows an active drought throughout the state, with parts seeing exceptional drought. But the outlook is different. Her models are showing an above normal precipitation outlook through August, September, and October, with the need to prepare for an El Nino through next year. What she can't predict is the next time her reservoirs will be needed to hold back a flood.
At this stance, we're not hugely concerned because you're right. It can hold a lot of water. But we're still watching it.
Back in September of 2013, 8 to 10 inches of rain fell in the metro area near the Cherry Creek Reservoir in a very rare storm. Once flooding subsides after an event like that, releases from the reservoirs are increased to make room for the next possible flood. Katie spent the summer going back in time, looking at soil wetness and snowmelt data to try and see trends and similarities from years past that could help us prepare and predict future floods. At Cherry Creek State Park. For Next, I'm Mark Salinger.
The Army Corps of Engineers focuses on flood control, while the state's in charge of administering water rights. Water levels at the reservoirs managed by the Corps are down about 10 feet compared to a couple years ago. Firefighters have pinpointed Xcel Energy's equipment and extreme weather as the likely cause for a deadly fire. Sound familiar? Some first-gen families don't feel welcome at college orientation. A CU Boulder student is on a mission to change that.
It's very important for those families to feel like, okay, I can connect with my student.
It's orientation for everyone. Next. Greeley Fire Department says Xcel Energy's equipment started the deadly grass fire in Greeley on Saturday. The department said microburst winds of up to 100 miles per hour took down some Xcel power poles. That fire near the Highway 34, Highway 85 interchange spread into a homeless encampment. It killed a 45-year-old woman and severely burned a man. Investigators say there is no evidence that that fire started inside the encampment or was set on purpose. Xcel says it's doing its own investigation into the fire, but said that its equipment was, quote, the likely source of the ignition that started the grass fire. Time to bring in meteorologist Chris Bianchi. And Chris, all of us are going to be taking a meteor shower together tomorrow night.
We sure are. A lot of people quite excited about the Perseid meteor shower tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. till 1 a.m. will be the best viewing time. There could be some cloud cover, particularly for northeastern Colorado. So if you want to check out the meteor shower, you want to go check that out there in the mountains. You want to head up into the high country, but little to no wildfire smoke will get in the way of that. We do have a fair bit of cloud cover and some showers here in the mountains south and west of Denver, and we're seeing a few of these gusty, dry microbursts, but not as strong as what we had back on Saturday. Some delays out at the airport right now because of some of those gusty winds. High pressure will move off to the east. That'll allow monsoon moisture to move back into the picture later this week, and specifically starting tomorrow in the mountains, we'll see those widespread showers and storms move in. Better chance for those showers and storms behind a cold front on Thursday. And Thursday looking pretty stormy with the potential for some flash flooding. And it looks pretty stormy if you're heading to Zach Bryan or if you're heading to, Mount Joy at Red Rocks. Just bring the poncho with you for Thursday and Friday, both those shows. One at Empower Field, the other one at Red Rocks, of course. 7-day forecast. Looking at least a lot cooler with showers and storms widespread Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Will gradually get rid of those shower and storm chances, but it stays cool until early next week.
CU Boulder has a relatively small Hispanic population, about 16%. And for some incoming students' parents who speak Spanish at home, orientation can be disorienting. This year, graduate student changed that. Here's our Angeline McCall.
It's preparing an experience.
Esto.
With the hope to give freshman students something she never had.
This one's done.
Nubia Mendoza remembers exactly what it felt like to arrive at CU Boulder.
I was a freshman here in 2016, so about 10 years ago.
Her parents spoke Spanish, but Nubia's college orientation was only offered in English.
A lot of it fell on me, really, to be that window for my parents, to provide that information, which, I had been used to that my entire life.
Now, as a graduate student, she's making sure other families don't feel left out.
It's just such a transformative experience for everybody involved, and I think it's just very important to make sure that parents can pull the weight that they want to pull.
This summer, she created a pilot program, 2 Spanish-speaking orientation sessions. Her mom, Veronica, helping in something she didn't have the chance to participate in 10 years ago.
Primera hija, es nuestra primera hija, es la mayor. Fue un poco difícil integrarnos a una nueva etapa que fue la universidad, como estamos acostumbrados en nuestra cultura que los hijos están con nosotros siempre.
Veronica knows how the parents are feeling, sending their kids off for the very first time.
Muchos de nosotros no tuvimos la oportunidad de ir a la universidad en nuestros países y es un cambio difícil, pero te sientes bienvenido con este programa.
This year, it's a pilot program. Nubia hopes it's just the start to bring a sense of belonging that was missing before.
Students and families take this as this is an opportunity to learn in community and to really just take up that space because we might not be many, but we're here and we're present on campus, and I think that visibility is important.
They're starting small this year, but hoping it expands in later years. And Nubia said she's open to trying to see if other orientations could be possible in other languages, not just Spanish. Kyle.
It makes so much sense about what a relief this would be to families, right? You take a kid to college, you just want to make sure that they're safe, especially if college is not an experience that you had. So being able to ask a question, have it answered in a way that you feel comfortable seems like a really big deal.
Well, it's a big step for parents, right? To send their kids off to college, and for many of them, maybe not being nearby or in driving distance. And so, all those parents have questions and they all want to be there. And this is a way to do that ultimately. So I think it's a good thing, and they're hoping to expand on it.
That was a great story. All right, Angeline McCall, thank you. Next is marking 10 years on the air this month. We've done a lot of investigations around here, from the serious to the absurd. Tonight, a look back at one of our first, the most useless bench in Denver. If you're a real one, you remember this Steve Steger straddle. That's next. Hey, reminder, you can catch us on a podcast each weeknight and also streaming 6 p.m. on 9 News, wherever you get us. Old school next graphic right there as we celebrate 10 years on the air. You have taken on some pretty big challenges as a Next community over the last decade. $19 million in microgiving, standing up to the governor's useless vanity project, that bridge at the Capitol that you blocked. And you have also taken on some tiny problems with our help, little absurdities that caught your eye here and there. As we look back on some of our favorite stories from the early days of this program, 2016, like when our Steve Steger found himself between a bench and a parking meter.
Which came first, the bench or the parking meter? Seriously? Oh, we're totally serious. A week after Next viewers got that strange sidewalk mailbox moved, Ron Patrick tipped us off to this, near the corner of Walnut and Broadway in Denver's River North neighborhood. If you think it looks tough to pay that meter, just think of how tough it is to sit on that bench. It's the only one we know of that requires the mounting skills of a horseback rider.
The spacing is terrible and the bench is so close to the pole.
Demetrius Miller walks by this thing every day, but never saw it until we pointed it out to him. So, which came first?
Oh, the parking meter for sure. Somebody put this bench in later.
Demetrius is right. The meter came first, says the city. In fact, when we called the city to ask about the whole thing, the spokeswoman for Public Works started to chuckle when she saw the photo of it. How can you not?
Terrible view.
That was Thursday. This was this morning. The city sent notice to the owners of the apartment complex, which apparently owns the bench, that they had a week to move it. And they did. While we were out checking on it, guess who happened to walk by?
I've been looking at it the last couple of days and I thought it was never going to get moved. But
yeah.
I think you made a big impact.
Come on, dude. It's a bench. We'd hardly call that a big impact. Just call us the Sidewalk Crusaders, making sure all things bolted down are where they belong.
A Next classic. Hey, that story got started with one of your Next questions, and we are still not above moving benches, parking meters, postal boxes, anything that makes people smile and makes life easier. So send us your Next questions about absurd things you see. Written question, video question, all are welcome. Email next@9news.com or text next 303-871-1491. There are some stories, Marilyn, that are Next lore that we still talk about 10 years later.
I love that. We were both laughing out loud.
Steger straddling the parking meter, an all-time favorite. Back with your feedback next. Feedback tonight from James, who says, appreciate this program's efforts to hold those in power accountable. Specifically says Marshall Zellinger's hard work in both locating and confronting politicians and his efforts to ensure he's up to date on all the minute details have not gone unnoticed. James writes he deserves kudos. I will miss true journalism if and when Next ends. Me too, James. I second your applause for Marshall Zellinger. He is always prepared, he is always informed, he is always fearless. And when he asks politicians like Congressman Gabe Evans simple, direct, fair questions, and he gets ducking or running away in response, that's pretty telling.